Hello and welcome to Chapter 8. Now we are going to talk about malicious software. That's what malware stands for. So the term malware stands for malicious software. Accurately explains what this class of software is designed to do. Of course, perform malicious and disruptive actions. Um, so malware can consume power, resources on a host system or a network, or install keyloggers, for example, on a system. You could do a whole, anything could be considered a malware. Any software or anything disruption of your system can be used as can be considered to be a malware. Viruses, Trojan horses, worms, and so on. So, some of the federal laws that are designed to prevent or mention malware include the Computer Fraud Abuse Act, the Patriot Act, or the Can Spam Act. It's good to know these, so please make sure, again, as a reminder, to read these notes carefully. I know I'm going over this kind of a summary and what's important to know, but I definitely want you to read these notes, peruse them very carefully, and also read the chapters in the book, or have them, have the PDF reads it for you if you want to, if you don't like reading. Reading is extremely important. All right. Anyway, because the midterm is going to come out right out of these notes. All right. So categories of malware. So here's the first thing: a virus. I want you to write these down. Either you can copy them right over here, all the way to adware. So copy these down, but I'm going to explain them to you so you'll know the difference. A virus is a malware that is designed to replicate and attach itself to other files, residents on the system. So that's what a virus is. It doesn't go anywhere. Worm, on the other hand, is really a virus, but it has the ability to replicate and propagate to other network devices without the intervention of the user. So that's a big, huge headache for an administrator if they have a worm in the system. And now you got viruses that are all over the place. You have to quarantine them and God knows what. It's a big, huge headache. Trojan horses. Trojan horses rely on social engineering. They cause harm while appearing to be a legitimate program. So if you go and download a program and the name and the look, everything looks beautiful, but it's really, they in the background, they may download something that sits dormant on your computer, and down the road, then they'll start gathering information or do malicious stuff. It could be a spyware, adware, or could be anything. So don't download anything free unless you know exactly where you're getting that information from. All right. McAfee antivirus or anti-malware they actually rank websites, and they know if there's specific websites where you download stuff, if they are known to have viruses or not. So that's probably one good advantage of using a McAfee anti-malware software. Rootkits. Rootkits are famous for making sure you're on undetected before or after you perform the attack. Spywares is when, if they sit on your system, they gather information about user activity. What are you doing? Keyloggers is a type of software spyware. Adwares, they replace the home pages on the browsers. And these home pages, if they replace them, they could be really something that you don't want your kids to see, for example. So make sure you're using, the latest and the greatest browsers. Don't play around with the security settings in your browsers. That's very important unless you know what you're doing. All right. The type of viruses we're talking about includes boot sector viruses, code, MBR. They put a code in the master boot record. That's what the boot sector is, and that's where everything starts off. So if you have a boot sector virus, your system is not going to boot up at all. So you'll lose everything pretty much. Macro viruses, like using little scripts in Microsoft Word or Excel. Again, Microsoft took care of that unless you really disable that. So somebody can actually have a Microsoft document sitting on your system and you using it, and you're allowing them to hack into your system, believe it or not, by just writing a code in there. Cluster viruses, stealth or tunneling viruses, cavity or file overwriting viruses, sparse vector viruses, companion or camouflage, and logic bomb viruses. So all of these are the different types of viruses that are out there. All right. What else? Ransomware. Okay. Ransomware is a search for valuable files and encrypting them. So they look at what's important for you, and they can encrypt your whole hard drive too, and then ask you for a payment to send you a key. If for whatever reason you see your system and you suspect that there's a virus and your system is not responding to you, and you see it, some of the files are getting encrypted in front of you, just unplug the system, turn it off immediately. That will disrupt the encrypting algorithm. That might save you from from encrypting your system. But if that ever happens to you and your system encrypted, don't ever pay. 90% of the time it doesn't work and your payment is for nothing. That's why it is extremely important that all your data has to be backed up no matter what, periodically. Anytime you make any changes to your computers or your system, to your network, it has to be backed up regardless. Okay, so it's not only something your hard drive might crash, but viruses or encryptions or anything could happen. You want to make sure your data is backed up. All right, so if this ever happens, you just wipe everything out. It's just a matter of time to get everything back in. All right, so here are some tools. You can create Trojan horses. Let me rule, correct, RC Cup, Recap, FabBot, Metis, or ZoomBam, I guess. ZoomBam B, they call it. To distribute Trojan horses, you would use wrappers, for example. Well, we talked about infections. Trojan horses are important. If you can get Trojan horses, if you can get a file on somebody's computer without knowing that this file is there, and that file can gather information from you, you did a great job. You can control that system however you want. It's pretty much, it acts like a zombie for you. You can control it remotely. So to distribute Trojan horses, you would use what's called wrappers. Attackers can take their intended payload. Please write this down. This is about wrappers. Attackers can take their intended payload and merge it with a harmless executable file to create a single executable from two of them. Examples of, some of these wrappers, Elite Wrap, Saran Wrap, Trojan Man, Teflon Oil Patch, Restorer, and Fire Killer 2000. There they are. We talked about that, and they are right here. The wrappers, right? This is what you need to write down. The construction kits for Trojan horses, you can use Trojan construction kits, the Cena Spy, and the Stealth tool. I said tooth. All right, backdoors. When implemented, a backdoor typically achieves one or more of the following goals. All right, let the attacker access a system later by passing any countermeasures the system owner may have in place, or provide the ability to gain access to the system while keeping a low profile. This allows the attacker to access the system and circumvent logging and other detective methods. Provides the ability to access a system with minimal efforts in the least amount of time. Under the right condition, a backdoor lets an attacker gain access to the system without having to rehack. So that's a great thing to do. All right. So this is really all I really wanted to discuss on this chapter. Of course, there's the overt and covert channels. You can read that. Again, please make sure you read at least once, if not 2 or 3 times, the notes, at least the notes. You have to read them and understand them, because I will take the questions straight out of your notes on the midterm. All right. And please take your time to read the chapter as well. So this way, when we're spending our time in class face to face, we are doing our labs. So this way you'll get the hands-on portion of it. And here, hopefully you'll get at least the theory. So this class is really designed more for the hands-on. Most of the stuff that we are discussing here, one way or another, you've heard it in different classes, different courses, I mean. But we'll try to put it together. And again, thinking about all of these malwares, how can you prevent against them? Of course, you want to use what are the countermeasures against malwares, anti-malwares. Make sure the Windows Defender is always up and running. Make sure that the securities on your browser is very high. Take care of the cookies, all of these, XSL stripping. Every once in a while, delete all the cookies and clear everything out. Make sure you never, don't download anything that you don't know where it's coming from. Don't install anything on your system. The USB sticks that you are placing on in your USB drive, make sure USB ports, make sure you know where they're coming from and what's on there, right? Your Windows Defender has to be running 24/7. Don't ever turn it off no matter what, right? That along with the Windows firewall. Never bring them down. I know sometimes in class and while we're in practice, we do bring these down because for testing purposes, but in production, in real world, you'll never do that, of course, right? And worst case scenario, if you ever get or somebody brings you a system that they think they have a malware on there, the quickest way and the easiest and to make sure that everything is done, you wipe everything out and reload everything. Repartition the hard drive and reinstall everything. That's why redundancy, backups is extremely important. So it is unacceptable to say, sorry, you lost your files, important files that you may have. They have to be backed up no matter what, especially to different places. Maybe one on an external drive and maybe some in the cloud. And you got to do that more often. Don't get lazy about that. Always back up your data. That's extremely important. All right. So until we meet into the next chapter, keep up the work, guys. I'll see you then.